So we just saw the penultimate episode of Daredevil Born Again, episode 8, which is definitely an improvement, I would feel like, on the majority of the season. I think it's pretty easily my favorite episode of the show, but there's a lot I want to discuss about the episode, just kind of in relation to the other episodes, in relation to the direction of the show, in relation to how I'm feeling on not just this episode, but the overall season. There's a lot of little stuff like that. And straight off, it's really, really, really weird because episode 8 almost feels like a direct sequel to episode 1. And like, yeah, we've got references to the Muse stuff from last episode, there's references to the BB report thread the season, there's references to a lot of little bits from episodes 2 to 7. But as a whole, it does kind of feel like episode 8 almost goes out of its way to ignore or to immediately move past everything from episodes 2 to 7. And the tiniest bit of backstory, which if you've watched any of my reviews, I've talked about this so many times, and just I feel like it's pretty common knowledge at this point that Daredevil Born Again is essentially two different shows. There was the original version from about a year ago that was filmed in line with the old version of Disney Plus Marvel shows where they didn't really use showrunners, where they kind of just approached the projects like they were movies or something like that. And the original version of Daredevil Born Again was a mix mash of this sort of stuff where it was like not really led by a showrunner. It was very procedural based. Episodes were sort of their own thing. And episode 5 is kind of the best example of that, where episode 5 of the show was set during the bank heist and was very much like in line with what the original version of Daredevil Born Again was going to be. Whereas episodes 1, 8, and 9 are pretty much entirely the new vision for what they want the show to be. And that vision is essentially a sequel to the original Daredevil seasons 1 to 3 on Netflix. It's pretty much Daredevil season 4. And it's really interesting how much episode 8 goes out of its way to just bypass, move on, be like, look, episodes 2 to 7 happened, but we're moving past that. We're doing our own thing now. We've got Bullseye back. We're dealing with the Foggy Karen stuff immediately. We're dealing with the anti-vigilante task force. We're dealing with a lot of this stuff that wasn't necessarily a big part of the original version of Born Again. And I mean, it leaves me in a kind of conflicted place because I feel like it doesn't make this season feel less messy than it already does. One good episode doesn't improve the whole show, but it does show a good direction that we're heading in and makes me really excited for episode 9. Now, straight off, I want to see episode 8 visually the best looking episode of the show so far. One of my major complaints with the entire show, including episode 1, was that visually I did not feel like it matched what what Netflix Daredevil was. Go back and watch Netflix Daredevil. I know season 3 visually looks different to season 1, but in general, seasons 1 through 3 are visually stunning. They use colors really well, they use their sets really well, they have this gritty look to them that really, really, really works, and it's just something that you enjoy looking at. I've never felt like Born Again necessarily has lived up to that in the visuals, in the visual area, in the cinematography area. I feel like, for the most part, it's looked pretty standard. I don't know, current day TV where everything looks very clean, everything looks very new, everything, lighting isn't great, stuff like that. Now, episode 8, I feel like, was a much bigger step in the right direction. They used colors really well. They were doing this really cool thing where anytime Bullseye would go into like bullseye mode, the whole color palette would change to blue. We had the really cool ending shots with Matt where it was just very red, really reminiscent of the original Daredevil show where they would use colors like red to showcase when Matt was going into like the devil mode. And Born Again hasn't really used that so far until episode 8. I love the blue look for Bullseye. That was visually very different to what we saw in the original Daredevil show on Netflix, but it really worked. I thought it was really cool. Plus, another thing that sort of showcases that we're now dealing with the new version of the show was that in episode 1, the aspect ratio would change when Matt was going into his, I don't know, his sense mode, his Daredevil sense mode. And episodes 2 to 7 did not use this visually at all. This wasn't a thing, apparently, in the old version of the show. And now in episode 8, we're back to doing that thing where Matt sort of hears that Bullseye's up there, that Dexter's up there with the gun, and straight away the aspect ratio starts to change, indicating that we're going into Daredevil sense mode. This is another thing where it feels like we're watching two different shows, where episode 8 is now immediately bringing in the visual stuff from episode 1 and sort of ignoring the visual stuff from episodes 2 to 7, which, I don't know, it's going to be a fascinating show to talk about. Marvel always does this thing with their Disney Plus shows where they have like, or their movies now as well, where it's got like Marvel Studios Assembled, where it's this hour-long documentary that usually releases at the very end of a TV show or releases like a month after a new movie comes out. And it's just this big behind-the-scenes doc that just goes into the making of and all that sort of stuff. Now, I mean, because all this stuff is made by Marvel, they don't necessarily get very, I don't know what the word is. There's a bias inherently to the documentary. It isn't like these docs are going into the negative parts of the production of the shows. No, they're trying to keep it clean. They're trying to keep it like everybody had fun, everybody had a good time, stuff like that. I'm really interested if we're going to get one of those for Daredevil Born Again, because we know that there's two completely different crews essentially working on these shows. That there was the original version and the new version, and I can't imagine the Marvel Studios doc is going to delve into the fact that John Bernthal almost walked away from Daredevil Born Again because he didn't like the direction of the original show. I can't imagine they're going to go into stuff where we've got the old creative team talking in the doc and then the new creative team also talking in the doc. So this could easily be the first Marvel Studios project to not get one of these docs. Now, in fairness, I'm pretty sure Captain America Brave New World also got one, and that also, from what we have heard, was a very troubled behind the scenes I don't know, behind the scenes production or whatever. And I haven't seen the Brave New World doc, but I doubt they went into the more troubling aspects of that production. So if they make a Daredevil Born Again doc, I assume it'll be the same thing where we're probably not going to get one of those things. And then maybe they'll just wait and they'll just do a doc at the end of season 2. And season 2 is in production at the moment, and I assume it's a much easier production than season 1 was. But I mean, I'll just straight off the bat, I will say everybody was saying that episodes 8 and 9 were the episodes of the show. Like, that everything else was not really going to matter once we got to episodes 8 and 9, because episodes 8 and 9 are what's setting up season 2 and are setting up where we're going. They're going to tease the Foggy stuff, they're going to tease the Bullseye stuff, and they're going to tease a lot of the direction for the rest of the show. I sort of expected episode 8 to go a little bit further in a lot of directions, because episode 8 was still very much focused on a lot of the side characters. Like Christian, she's pretty much in this episode more than she's been in any of the rest of the season. Heather is also very prevalent in this episode more than the rest of the season. We get a long scene with Cherry when they go to Josie's, which was really cool to get Josie back for that and get the actress back and to kind of deal with that sort of stuff. But similarly, that scene with Cherry, Matt, and Josie was pretty much, I want to say, Cherry's longest scene in the show, which has a lot of these issues still slightly where it's like anytime we were dealing with these side characters like Cherry, like Heather, not necessarily Christian, because I know she's a big Daredevil comics character, but I don't feel like show Christian has done anything to make her enjoyable or make her a character that we want to necessarily see more of. But it's like, it's a thing where, we're cutting to these side characters and I'm straight away kind of thinking, all right, I would like to see Foggy or Karen now. I would like to see what we're doing with Bullseye. I would like to see Frank. I would like to see, any of these other characters come in that aren't these side characters that I'm having a troubling time caring about or troubling time getting invested in. I'm hoping that starts to improve. If we know Heather's coming back for season 2, I assume Christian and Cherry are also going to be involved in season 2. So I hope once we have the new creative team focused on making this show properly, that maybe we're going to see better things with these side characters. And at the moment, they're just kind of in cleanup mode of making everything work and meshing everything together. Now, I will say the Bullseye stuff in this episode felt fresh out of season 3 of the original show. It felt very, very, very cool. And just tone-wise and pacing-wise, this episode really reminded me of late season 3, where we have, Bullseye breaking out of prison and he's going to one of Fisk's ball to take care of Fisk and to, just clean up some messes, stuff like that. And we can maybe assume that this is the first time that Poindexter has seen Fisk in person since the events of Daredevil season 3, so there's going to be a lot of bad blood there, and just you got that vibe from it. You got the vibe that this is Poindexter cleaning up, this is Poindexter coming back, finally getting or hoping to get his vengeance or revenge that he's been waiting to get since the events of season 3, which at this point in the MCU was like 9 years ago. I think Daredevil Born Again is in 2027, and Daredevil season 3 took place in like early 2018 to late 2018, sometime around then. So it's cool to see all this sort of stuff, and we can kind of finally get the vibe that yeah, this is a successor to the Daredevil show that we know and love. This is really, really, really following up from that sort of stuff, which is really exciting. The Matt stuff in this episode, easily my favorite Matt stuff of the entire show. The dialogue, the acting from Charlie Cox was perfect. That scene with him and Poindexter in the prison, like integration room or whatever it is, where he was just like, "Listen, sweetheart, you want me to break you out here? You want me to defend you or whatever?" And Poindexter is like, "Isn't that what makes a man good, when he defends his worst enemy?" I don't know, I'm paraphrasing the dialogue. I've seen the episode once, but it was like that. And then Matt just slams his head down and Poindexter is like, "Thank you, counselor," and Matt is like, "Fuck you." Like that just, I know we didn't get fucks on a regular basis in the original Daredevil show. It was like said twice, and both times were like a very light mutter that sounded like maybe they were just, improvised by the actors on set. But seeing that in this scene just reminded me of the visceral nature of Matt from like season 3 of Daredevil, where he was just a force to be reckoned with. And he just, I mean, Matt as a character is the flip of a coin, where depending on what day you get him on, he could be the most cheerful, upbeat, happy, supporting guy ever, or he could literally be a terrifying asshole where you don't know what he's going to say, you don't know who he's going to lash out at, you don't know how he's going to freak out. And I loved that feeling in this episode where it felt like Matt was on a bad day, where he was just lashing out, being an asshole, just saying things to anybody to piss them off because he didn't give a shit. And I mean, that's my personal favorite version of Matt. It's the battle inside of him with the devil, and to decide, who he wants to be. And this kind of got brought up as well with the scene with Kirsten, which is my favorite scene with Kirsten in the show so far, where Matt and Kirsten were debating. We're not even debating, they were just having a conversation about if they're doing much to actually make a difference. And that Matt says that it feels like they're babysitting criminals, essentially. It feels like they're not making a difference. Like Hector got killed despite the fact that they got him acquitted of I don't know legal terms. Acquitted, is that the right term? Where they got him off of the case, where, Hector was set free, Hector was still killed. And then vice versa, they're defending people who are pieces of shit, like the new guy in the episode that was in that brief scene, but I don't know, he was involved in teacher fraud or something like that. And Matt's like, "Look, this guy's a dickhead, this guy's a criminal, and we're defending him and he'll be fine. Hector Ayala, he was innocent. We defended him and he got fucking killed anyway." It's really cool stuff like that that just makes episode 8 feel like a more sophisticated episode of television than the rest of the show has. And I've seen a lot of people sort of say straight away that, like, oh, episodes 1 and 8 are the best of the show now, easily. I'm surprised at that, because I remember episode 1 being pretty divisive, where it felt like a lot of people were kind of considering episode 1 to be a letdown, be underwhelming, be not the Daredevil show that they were hoping to see. And the fact that that was the complete new crew made people a little weary and a little nervous that maybe the actual good stuff of the show isn't going to be coming from the new crew necessarily. Those doubts in my mind that the new crew are good for the show went out the window with this episode. If this is the kind of quality we're going to be getting next week and in season 2, I'm on board. I want to see what they do. I want to see what they handle. I want to see what they bring to the table, because this is really exciting stuff and really compelling stuff. But I'm surprised that people are straight away sort of backtracking a little bit and saying episode 1 is now great, because I still think episode 1 was a very messy first episode that was clearly trying to do too much, was clearly trying to deal with how best to incorporate new footage with old footage. It felt amateurish. Whereas episode 8 does not feel amateurish. Episode 8 feels like they know what they're doing now. Feels like they are completely free from the chains of the old footage. They can give slight references to things that have happened this season, but in general, they want to tell their story now, and they are finally free to tell their story. So what happens from now on is completely their story, for better or worse. Thankfully, based off of this episode, I do think it's for better. The Fisk and Vanessa stuff, I've also said in my other reviews that, surprisingly enough, the Fisk Vanessa stuff is actually one of my least favorite parts of the show, where I've kind of been surprised how little I've been into it and how little I've been enjoying it. Episode 8 again changed that, where I've like finally felt like I was really, really, really into what we're doing. Like when we're learning that, Vanessa's probably the one that called out the hit on Foggy, and what that entails. And there's more mystery there. I'm sure it's going to be revealed, maybe that like she's hiding Foggy or something like that. But for the moment, Matt gets that reveal that Vanessa is likely behind this sort of stuff and not Wilson at all, like he originally thought. So there's that moment where Matt sort of inserts himself into the dance that Wilson and Vanessa are doing, and he just grabs Vanessa and is like, "I know you killed Foggy," and she tries to like get away, and Matt's like, "No, no, no, you're not going anywhere. We need to talk about this." Like, that was more interesting and compelling to me now, making Vanessa a more interesting character to me than, the idea that she had an affair with Adam, than the idea of the couples counseling with Heather and Wilson. Like, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. But now knowing that Vanessa is behind a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the show, I'm more interested in her character. Like, again, I didn't give a shit about the Adam scene. When Wilson and Vanessa were there talking and Adam was just screaming in the background or whatever, and then she shot Adam. I know a lot of people were saying that Adam was going to end up being Muse next season because Muse is supposed to be in season 2. So people were like, "Oh, they're sort of seeding that Adam's an artist, and he wasn't killed last episode, so maybe he's going to be Muse next season." I think Vanessa shooting him twice in the chest and then once in the head sort of makes it clear that that's not going to be the way that this is playing out. But what I'm saying is that stuff I don't give a shit about. I do really, really, really like what happened with Vanessa in the back half of the episode, where it feels like we're now going in a genuine, interesting direction. Also, that new commissioner or the police officer that Wilson kicked out, him coming in and trying to stop the anti-vigilante task force from attacking the journalist, I think it was, that immediately made him a much more interesting character too, because I didn't really, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was in the earlier episodes, but it felt like they were giving off the vibe that he was actually a dirty cop and that he was actually an asshole, and now they're playing it up that no, he's actually one of the good cops, and that's why Wilson was pushing him out perhaps, which again makes him a much more interesting character to me, which I think is really exciting for the direction that episode 9 and season 2 is going to go, where they're making a lot of these supporting characters that the old version of the show introduced a lot more interesting. And I can't wait to see what they do with them. It's making me excited for Daredevil again, which, I mean, I've been excited going through the season, but I've definitely been feeling like this isn't the Daredevil that I was hoping we were going to get. And now after this episode, I feel like we've got Matt in an area where he feels like Matt Murdock from the original show to me. We've got the Vanessa Wilson dynamic heading in a direction where it feels like it's more reminiscent of the old show. We've got Bullseye out and doing his thing. We've got a lot of this stuff. Frank's back next episode. So it's an exciting group of episodes, and I'm really happy that it seems to be a major improvement, and I hope it continues. But anyway, how did you feel about Daredevil Born Again, episode 8, the penultimate episode? Do you also think it's an improvement, or are you still kind of like, let me know all that sort of stuff. I'm also so sorry how tired I look. I don't know. I feel like when I record these videos at 8 a.m. in the morning after watching Daredevil, it always makes me look tired. It was the same with Superman and Lois. I'd record my reviews straight after watching the episodes at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and it would, make me look like shit. But anyway, Daredevil Born Again, episode 8, good. Really liked it. Can't wait to see what they do going forward. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. If you are, a like and a share is always a huge help. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day.